going to be a dramatic, not just first 100 days. I suspect it's going to be a dramatic 10 days in a way that we've never seen before, at least with many of our modern presidents. First up, is the end of the Biden administration, the beginning of the Trump administration. The long national nightmare is over. President Biden is on the way out. President Trump is on the way in. And I think many Americans, if not most Americans, are excited at the transition to the second Trump era, a continuation of the first one. As I noted, around Election Day, lawfare has failed. The efforts to interfere in our elections by abusing the Justice Department and prosecutorial offices and in New York and in Atlanta and frankly in other states as well did not succeed in keeping Trump out of office. And in my view, the American people in voting for Trump essentially found him innocent. And of course, the lawfare is never going to stop, even if Trump, practically speaking, has beaten it into the ground. I mean, even this week, you had Jack Smith's and the Garland Justice Department, and sometimes I go through in detail some of these materials as they're released. This one doesn't deserve the time of day. It's a screed saying that Trump would have been convicted if only they could go, if only they had gone to trial, and of course they wanted to convict him for doing what? Doing what presidents are supposed to do, ensure that elections are free and fair and laws are followed, and doing what American citizens have a right to do under the Constitution, federal and state law, which is to dispute an election. And so it was an effort by Biden and his gang, the Garland Justice Department, Jack Smith, to try to jail Trump and for disputing an election, retaliation, election interference. And it's also a signal to others saying, if you do this too, we'll come after you. But they failed. They lost. It doesn't mean they still won't try to smear him and keep on harassing him and people around him. But it's a vindication in many ways for the rule of law. Now, Jack Smith is gone as well, further proving he resigned, further proving his position was purely political. I mean, if he was a special counsel neutrally pursuing justice, why would he resign? Why wouldn't he just finish up his work under President Trump? Well, you know why. Because he was put in there for a political purpose, purely political. And as far as I'm concerned, Jack Smith, Garland, and all the rest should be subject to independent criminal investigations for what I believe to be unprecedented abuses of power under the color of law to deprive President Trump and other American citizens of their civil rights, in addition to other violations of law. So great news there in the sense that there still needs to be accountability and justice for what went on. But I want accountability and justice, and we will continue to pursue it. But Trump coming back into office and being vindicated by the American voter, I think many people will interpret as a measure of justice as well. And President Biden, on his way out, continues to engage in behavior that is, frankly, dangerous to the national security and to the safety of the American people. You may have missed it, but he released a bunch of terrorists from Gitmo the other day, Guantanamo Bay. Folks, including some, one of which at least previously was deemed too dangerous to release. Many of the others were the bodyguards for Osama bin Laden. Now, there's this awful record of those previously released from Gitmo going back and becoming terrorists again. So this shows you where this left-wing ideology, this hate America, there's like the America First ideology. And there's also what I call the hate America First ideology, and that's the one the left pursues. they kind of like terrorism. Doesn't mean they're terrorists, but they like and condone terrorism, and they don't believe it's as big an issue, even if it results in deaths, as other vicious, murderous criminal activities. Because the left relies on terrorism and the threat thereof to achieve its political agenda. And so that's why they've got this soft spot in their hearts for terrorists. And we saw that literally with Biden releasing 11 terrorists from Gitmo. And I think just today he said, I'm releasing 2,500 drug criminals from the federal prisons. Of course, none of the details have been made available. So you can presume they're drug dealers and the worst of the worst. If you are in federal prison on crimes related to drugs, you're not there because some trooper pulled you over and you were smoking a marijuana cigarette. You're there because there were significant drug crimes on your record or other related crimes. So just, again, a kind of a cynical attack on the public safety. Another last-minute Biden move was to extend what is called temporary protected status to, as I think the number is 1 million or so aliens who otherwise should be home. And there's a group of aliens, I think it's from, I forget which Central American country. But he said that they needed to have temporary protected status for another several months, and maybe as long as 18 months, because of an earthquake that took place 20 years ago in their country. So just contempt for the American people's concern about having foreign nationals here in violation of good sense and the law. So that's where we are with Biden, and he gave this speech on the way out that was, as I called it on Twitter, villainous. Basically designating and targeting, and I don't know who wrote the speech for Biden. He's completely out of it. It's pretty clear. Other than him being generally angry, these policy moves are purely the creation, it looks to me, because he's not capable of planning this type of thing or even thinking about it based on what we've been seeing the last several months. Purely the creation of ardent leftists who are actually running our government. And his speech, I don't know if we have the tweet. I guess we did. I don't think we pulled that tweet. Did we? The villainous tweet? No. So I want to remind myself of what I wrote. Because I guess I could go off the top of my head, but that's not fun, right? Yeah. So this is so the tweet I wrote was this, or I'm going to quote the thought from the tweet. Because the speech was incitement. I don't know if you saw the speech. It was just awful. I mean, the presentation, further demonstrated his cognitive decline, but the speech itself was just terrible. And this is my summary. Whoever wrote that villainous Biden speech reaffirmed that the left wants to destroy our constitutional republic by targeting the Supreme Court. He attacked the Supreme Court again, encouraging lawfare and worse, basically suggesting all of the enemies are criminals who need to be prosecuted and destroyed, confiscating wealth and property, attacking, quote, oligarchs. How do you handle oligarchs? You steal their wealth. That's what the left does. Imposing censorship on Americans, putting out misinformation, and again, and eliminating First Amendment protections for free speech. That's Biden's message on his way out, other than his petty concern that, I could have beaten Trump. Then why did you allow yourself to be cooed out of the candidacy for the presidency? What threats were you given? That should be the subject of a criminal investigation as far as I'm concerned. Biden's leaving, but the damage to the republic will continue. And to that end, President Trump will be inaugurated on Monday. We were looking forward to attending it in person, but it got moved indoors to a very limited audience because of the cold weather. But by all accounts, Trump is going to immediately go to town. Based on what I've been hearing, It's going to be biblical. That's the word that was used in terms of the scope and breadth and number of executive orders meant to restore the rule of law, address the crises at the republic in our republic to the extent he can through executive order. So it's going to be a dramatic, not just first 100 days. I suspect it's going to be a dramatic 10 days in a way that we've never seen before, at least with many of our modern presidents. And there are so many issues to address, and I'd be curious to know, share below, what issues do you want Trump to address first? And you know, the challenge with the left when they control government, I often observe this, is that they set so many fires on the horizon, it's difficult sometimes to figure out where to go to. Which ones do you put out first? Let's just talk about some of the fires President Trump has to put out. He needs to protect the republic from the invasion. He needs to reverse the Biden invasion immediately. And that's easy, or it's not easy to do, but it's easy to point out as a priority. He needs to cut prices. And that's going to take a lot of work to do, because he's going to have to begin to, it's not even a spigot, just think of a ginormous valve of money flowing into our economy as a result of government spending. And, you know, and other steps he needs to take to curtail that. But we need to have our prices cut. I mean, we're being bled to death through inflation. He needs to address the lawfare immediately, because it's not just him being targeted by the Justice Department. There are other states targeting his supporters. So there needs to be a reckoning and an accountability move by him in that regard. So what else? The censorship issue, the generalized abuses of power in the areas of energy and the environment, the war on energy needs to be reversed as well. Talk about causing inflation. Think of the cost of energy and the inflationary impact of Biden's efforts to destroy our fossil fuel industry and waste money subsidizing in a way the market doesn't desire or we need, the green energy issue. And then, of course, we have our national security. Our defense budgets are still too low. Morale is zero in our Pentagon, or excuse me, in the Department of Defense. Morale is probably zero in the Pentagon right now because all the woke generals who've been ruining the military are probably worried about what Trump's going to do. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.